Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Breakfast Show. It's time to take a look at our very interesting segment that we have talked about at the beginning of the show, and that is the role of the army in Egypt, but this time in ancient Egypt. And of course, our interesting guest he has all the details and the secrets about ancient Egyptians, and he's going to tell us were their army back then in ancient Egypt history, and is there any relationship in the characteristics of the early age Egyptian army and today's Egyptian army, that and very much more in this interesting conversation. We're very much delighted to have joining us here in the studio this morning our guest, Mr. Bessam, الشماع, is an author in Egyptology. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Mr. Bessam. And to start with, was the Egyptian army the first military in history?
Actually, in ancient Egypt, it started in form of guards to start with. There was no kind of, if you like, disciplined attitude of putting many people in one formation, one platoon, heading with tactics, stuff like that. It didn't start this way. It started by kind of small groups of people to protect this, that, the king, the ruler, and so on. And then it became so huge and so very well kind of first identified and acknowledged by the historians. Two, we started to see depicted scenery of huge movements, of huge platoons going from one place to the other, tactics, military maps and plans, geographical map of routes that the army is going to use. So yes, that happened in ancient Egypt. The biggest, of course, were starting from the New Kingdom. So you are talking the 1200s, 1300s, and of course the 1400s BC. And that's when we started to really see big number of platoons and huge armies by the thousands, led by different ranks. We started to deal with different ranks, started to deal with who's the soldier, recruiting, because we were the first nation to recruit for armies. So there will be young people being recruited to join the army. And I love the title which was given to the soldier in ancient Egypt. When you join as a young man the Egyptian army in ancient times, you will be given a title of the beautiful young man.
The beautiful young man.
Yeah, that is the soldier. The soldier is titled this way. So instead of soldier Bessam, come here like this, no. The beautiful young man, Bessam, come here. So this is an amazing title to be given to a soldier. Number two, we learned that soldiers were given lands. So you will have the freedom to work as a farmer on your land while you are serving in the army. And that, I think, is very smart by the ancient Egyptian system, because this young man is defending
his own land.
His own land. Two, he's making a good profit when he works in the afternoon or something, or he brings other farmers to work for him. And thirdly, we learned another good system, which is he would be exempted from 1/3 of his own taxation.
So we have seen today that the army officers were exempted from taxation, and you have mentioned last week that also the authors were exempted from taxation. So old Egyptians,
I'm happy to remember.
were so,
I'm happy to remember.
so nice.
Sir, let's talk about the characteristics of the Egyptian army or the soldiers. I mean, not only is, as you said, they are one of the oldest or the oldest army, they're also one of the greatest armies and the strongest armies in the Arab region and also in the world. Yes. That is a fact. Yes. Let's talk about the characteristics, because not only are the Egyptian citizens different than other citizens, but also the army in particular. They're patient, maybe they're tolerant, they can handle heavy burdens. Has these characteristics changed, or were they inherited in the first place from the pharaoh's days? Tell us more about that.
Depicted scenery of heroes of ancient Egyptian armies were left, and it reached us, and they were translated, the texts, they were transliterated. We knew their names, we knew their ranks, we knew all their kind of heroic stories, and some of which are really pretty brilliant heroic stories that you can make more. Yeah, this is one good thing to our directors now. Go and get yourself Ahmos ibn Ipana. Here is a name I introduced to all our directors. Ahmos ibn Ipana. Not the famous Ahmos of the Hyksos, but another leader of the army. Ahmos ibn Ipana was never a king. He was never a ruler. He was never a pharaoh. He was actually a leader in the army. He's a brilliant man. And from the stories of those heroes, we learned that you can kind of rise from a certain rank being a soldier's writer. There is something in the ancient Egyptian army called, one of the very famous characteristics of the ancient Egyptian army is that there was a guy who would be responsible to write the names of the recruits. So Bessam, Radwan, Muhammad, الشماع, 1, so on, so on, so 2, and so on. This writer, this kind of, this scribe, is pretty important. But the big leaders of the army told us that one of the things that he's very proud, that he started as soldiers' writers. He's a soldier scribe. So he started from there. And then
they
he started
they have
to
promotion in this sense back then.
Exactly. Until he reached, every time you achieve something. Also from the very famous characteristics is that in the ancient Egyptian army, there were the bonuses. And there were also the medals of honor. Oh yes, there were loads of medals of honor. And one of the most famous...
Of course, they're very different. Back then, at least, they're made of pure gold.
Pure gold.
You don't have that nowadays, you know.
Not like shining gold,
that's
but
one
it's not.
missing opportunity.
Yeah. Gold. There were bracelets given. There were necklaces given. There were lands. You would be given lands if you achieved a great heroic story in the battle. We learned one of the ancient Egyptian soldiers actually succeeded in capturing a chariot wheel. That's pretty. This is a pretty amazing achievement. That is. Oh yes. Wow. This always relate, because I always like to relate, as you know, between past and present. It always brings me back to the spy catcher of the Egyptian army, for example, that we learned about this year a lot. We also talk about the catcher of the tanks and the hunter, the tank hunter, and the story of how he hunted more than one tank, Assaf Yaguri, and how he was the most infamous, if you like, captured man in 1973, and till today Assaf Yaguri's story is still going on. And I always relate that to Assaf Yaguri because this man writes, depicted on the wall of his tomb, saying, I captured a chariot wheel. Chariot wheel is a tank today. That is very hard to capture a chariot wheel, especially when you know that the Egyptians didn't have wheels.
Yes.
So it's a new, it's a kind of a new weapon. So they learned the new weapons of the army, they trained on it, they became excellent, and they defeated the Hyksos, or the Hykachasut, as we call them in hieroglyphs, using the same weapon. That is something that the Egyptian soldier, it lived in his genes. Because in 1973, you used all sorts of RBJs and all sorts of aeroplanes and jets and all of this, and these were new weapons. So I think probably that is one of those characters that lived in the veins of the Egyptian show. And he actually took the capture, he took the chariot man, the soldier of his end, and he actually put it on his shoulder. And he walked and he went into water and out, and he's telling us about how his trip and how his voyage until he reaches the king. And then he throws the captured enemy in front of his feet. And here he is, you know, introducing to the king of Egypt the captured enemy that I got, and here is his chariot wheel in one piece, and that is what I give to you, my king. So the king goes, well done, my son, I shall give you land, I shall give you linen, I shall give you gold, I shall give you gloves, I shall give you necklaces, I shall give you houses, I shall give you cattle. Oh, you will have lots of cattle because you are a brave man.
Mr. Bassam, who were the most famous and prominent commanders in the ancient Egyptian army?
I'll introduce you to a man that maybe his name is not, well, the people are not well acquainted with his name. His name is Ahmus ibn Nikhbet.
This is different than the famous Ahmus.
Exactly. And Ahmus is the name that we use. But in ancient Egypt, if you said Ahmus, nobody's going to reply to you. Because there was nothing called Ahmus in ancient Egypt. Originally, the name is I'ah Mes.
It's a bit more easier. And
I
hope I would remember it by the time I get to
bet my life she would have said that. But you are right. Yes, I'm with you. I'ah Mes, but it's the correct name. So,
but why we use it as Ahmus?
Exactly. What happened is that after hieroglyphs came lots of kind of influences of languages, some of which were the Greeks. So there is nothing called Isis. Isis is not in ancient Egyptian scripts. There is no Z in hieroglyphs.
So what's
Osiris is, there is nothing called
Osiris. What was the original names now?
Yeah. Osir is the original word
So
of
it's
Osiris.
totally
That's
different.
easier. Totally different and easier. Osir is easier than Osiris. Osir. You get Iset is better than Isis or Isis with a Z in Arabic.
So we are having different names
A little
here.
bit like that. So I'ah means, because also you are telling the true word, the true name, the true meaning. If you call me Basim, it's nice, but it's not Bassam. If you call me Hussam, it's nice, but it's
not my name.
It's not the naming, it's not the meaning. And so I'ah means the moon. Mes means the sun, the begotten, S-O-N. The begotten. So he's the begotten of the moon. So I think it's a beautiful name. But let me now surprise you and everybody and the viewers by introducing to you a person who led the Egyptian army in one of the most sensitive times of our ancient Egyptian history. She was a leader of the country. She was a leader of the army. She was appointed. She was given and awarded the best, highest medal of military honor in the history of ancient Egypt. Her name is the very famous I'ah Hetep. Hetep is a hieroglyphic word for happiness, satisfaction, and peace. And I'ah means the moon. So her name means the moon is in peace.
That's
Or
very
the
interesting.
peaceful moon. So it's beautiful. That's why I'm
The name is
insisting.
very much unlike the title that she has for herself.
It's like, she was a tough cookie, she was. Oh, yes. And she was the mother of Yahmes. And she was the wife of Siknan Ra, the first king who got killed in the Hyksos Wars.
Yes.
So
That's
she was the widow. She was the great wife of the king. She lost him. She was the great mother of Yahmes. But Yahmes, when he took power, was 10.
Wow.
Ahmose, the famous Ahmose, who
Yes.
defeated the Hyksos, was only 10 when he took power. So who led the army? Who led the whole thing?
mom.
Was his mom.
Yes, and now, since you're a history and a book with a lot of interesting stories about Egyptology, when you mentioned the weapons that were used back then that were very limited, but yet it was a discovery and they were awarded the army back then in ancient Egyptians. Talking about modern type of weapons and helicopters and so forth, how do you explain the fact that some writings on the tombs or the stones somewhere in the pyramids and so forth, they had similar drawings and figures that describe the helicopters today and the rockets and saucers and very strange. I mean, does that in Egyptology have a meaning and it's just a coincidence that the symbols are the same, or were they like psychic or something?
Okay, I'm very happy with this question actually, because I'm always always ask this business of, did the ancient Egyptians invent the helicopter? Did they invent the submarine? Did they invent the flying saucers? Because those three things were depicted in the temple of Abydos in Upper Egypt. And please do join my Facebook, where you're going to find a total whole 45 minutes explanation with photos and pictures replying to this.
Really?
But to summarize it all in one sentence is, no, they did not invent the submarine or the tank. It looks amazingly similar to a tank and a submarine. I'm with you. And a helicopter. It's a typical helicopter. But it's two hieroglyphic words depicted on each other.
So it has
The
another
eye,
meaning?
and it acts totally, but nothing to do with a helicopter, but it looks like a helicopter because of the two hieroglyphs being right over each other. A king came and depicted something, and another king came and did something over it. So it gave that design that you would think it's a helicopter, but it's not. I would be the happiest person on earth if we have invented the helicopter, of course. But the Egyptians did not. Until now, we don't have any proofs that they invented anything to fly. But if you go to the Egyptian Museum and you go to room 22, and you will find there a small model of Horus, the falcon, Her in hieroglyphs, with an amazing wing, and the tail is this way, not that way, not that way. All birds, their tail are like that. There is not one bird in the world which is tail like that. This is an aeroplane. This is a radar, as they call it. Not a radar, it's a radar. Radar is the tail of the airplane. So why did the ancient Egyptians leave us that model made out of wood, sycamore wood, in the Egyptian Museum today? and it turned the whole world upside down.
So saucers are not really saucers?
No. Yes,
That's sad.
if you like Hollywood, that's another
all those
story.
years. Come on.
Mr. Bassam, we will move now from the ancient Egyptian army to your interview in Al Watan newspaper, in which you were talking about the stolen Egyptian artifacts and how they are on display in museums and in places all over the world.
Yes.
How do you see this, and how can we get back our stolen artifacts?
Yes, today's interview in Al Watan came very, very nicely because it actually, first of all, I would like to say thank you for the lady who made that interview, because everything I said was depicted and written. There was nothing cut here or cut there, and this I appreciate. Number two, yes. Number two,
because it's about Egyptology. Trust me, if it was another topic,
oh
that
no,
wouldn't be the
it's
same.
not all about Egyptology.
Okay,
Read
tell
it.
us about it.
Oh
then.
yes, it's about the Constitution. It's about how we defend our monuments. What's the role of the Ministry of Interior to deal with how to protect? So yes, there are lots of politics in it as well. And history is politics, and politics
Yes,
is history.
that's
Believe
true.
you me, if politicians, and that is one good advice I give to politicians all through the world, all through history and all over the world. Please do read your history, because you keep on repeating the same mistakes again.
Yeah, read the correct history, because see, there's a lot of modification to
yes.
history itself.
Let me remind you of a man called Santayana. He wrote a sentence, it's ringing in my ear for years. And I think this is going to be like, I'm going to take it down to the grave with me, this word. It keep on ringing on my ears. He says, those who do not read their past will be condemned by repeating it. You will be condemned to repeat your history mistakes because you did not read your past. And here I'm saying about the meeting with the minister last week, when I met the Minister of Antiquities, a very nice man, Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim, and we were talking about many things, one of which is how to protect our monuments and I delivered to him a CD with a very big number of websites that sells, that sells. And some of the pictures that you show now, I gave it to the press, and they depicted it nicely with good colors, so it can be easy for the eyes. And that's my first article on Al Watan, actually. But anyway, one of the things that I said at the end is we need to be strong dealing with the people who are selling our monuments on web. It's like, please don't sell. Of course, this is not going to work. It's like you have to show power. You have to show you are in control. How? By one sentence. Tomorrow morning, a message to the British government, a message to the German government. They're all our friends. We love them and everything. But we need our stuff back. This is robbery. This is robbery in daylight. The Rosetta Stela in the British Museum is robbery. I'm sorry. I love the British. I work there. I work with them.
But it's
I
our
lecture
right.
them.
It's our antiquities.
Make a poll. I say, for the British government, please kindly, you people who respect human rights, I know that, because I dealt with you for years, I'm still dealing with you. Make a poll among your people. Make a poll. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister go, guys, shall we put back the Rosetta Stela in Rosetta, in Rashid? Same thing with Merkel in Germany. Germans, would you like us to take Nefertiti's head back to Tell el-Amarna? You know, Nefertiti's head in Berlin Museum was found in Tell el-Amarna, in Elmenia Governorate. You know where it was found? It was found in the atelier of Jahotmes, the sculptor, the guy who left those. And before he leaves, this man, before he have left Tell el-Amarna, he would have taken with him what he thought was worth taking with him to Thebes, back to Thebes. So imagine with me that Jahotmes thought that Nefertiti's head, this beauty that we are all dying when we see it, is not worth taking. So he left it. He left it with 50 pieces. One of 50 pieces were left in Tell el-Amarna because Jahotmes, the amazing genius sculptor, didn't believe that that's worth taking with him. What? So I question Jahotmes. I sent this question from Nile TV International to Jahotmes.
Somewhere in the grave, thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I'm asking him.
Why did you leave?
Why did you leave that beauty And B, that's A, and B
Maybe
is...
she broke his heart. You see, the guy has an emotional status here. Come on.
And B, what did you take with you to Thebes from Tel al-Amarna that you thought was worth
more
taking?
important than the head of
and more beautiful. What? So we are searching now, this is for the Minister of Antiquities, go search for the atelier of Jehotmos, but not in Tel al-Amarna because it's known in Tel al-Amarna. No, go and fetch for it in Luxor, in Thebes, in Tiba, in Al-Aqsar. Because there, if you find it, you will find things which will overcome in beauty and in skill the head of Nefertiti. And by this, the Germans didn't agree on us taking it back. We can have something more beautiful than that.
Mr. Bassam, and finally, you were talking now about the artifacts that were stolen and your call for the search in Tel al-Amarna. Do you believe now that the government should take quick measures in order to restore these artifacts as soon as possible in order to be placed in the Grand Egyptian Museum, which will be inaugurated in a few years?
Absolutely. I'm with you 150%. I'm with restoration, but not rebuilding. So I don't like rebuilding, because rebuilding something or adding something to the statue is going to subtract, it's going to suck that essence of history from... Remember the step pyramid when they wanted to cover it many years ago? They wanted to cover it with a kind of a modern outer casing. And they started already on the first step, on the bottom step, and I screamed then and I said, no, 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 don't do that, because by this is going to be 2013 statue. Leave it this way. Oh yes,
with
injections and strength it and everything, as you said, I'm with that. But I am also, because they just opened that, and I advise everybody to go to see room 44 in the Egyptian Museum, just opened, and they are showing the things which were destroyed when the museum was robbed, was looted. In 2011, 28th of January, when you remember, they destroyed things, the people. So they took the things and they restored it. Oh, they have done a marvelous job. One of the things which were destroyed was a mummy of a young boy, and his head was broken, cut, detached from the body and thrown in front of the door, one of the side doors of the Egyptian Museum. I say mummies with respect should go back to their tools.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Bessam al-Shama, author in Egyptology. Thank you for joining us, and of course we do want to send a message to the people here in Egypt before we ask the people of Germany and Britain to return back, that here in Egypt they should understand and appreciate how important, you know, the monuments are and their history is, because if they feel that it belongs to them, they would include them and bring them. Thank you very much for joining us. It was lovely, of course, interviewing you and bringing us to the end of
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Mr. Bassam, and thank you, our dear viewers, and have a very good morning.